Let's see. All right. Good morning, you guys. Welcome back to Conversations with Allieetoile. Today is a brand new day, a brand new episode. Actually, episode 5 already. I can't believe we've already done 5. That's crazy to me. And I'm very, very excited to be having a special guest joining us all the way from Amsterdam, the lovely Joey Massarelli, who is dancing with Dutch National Ballet. And so just give us a couple minutes and he is going to be connecting on here very, very soon. How's everyone doing? Are we all okay? Thumbs up. Happy April, by the way. Finally getting into springtime. I'm in Florida now, so I have some nice sunshine and warm weather, but definitely for those who are in Europe right now or in the UK, my colleagues, I know the feeling, I know that weather, so. Let's see, Joey, where are you? He should be on here in just a moment. There he is. Okay. Connect. Sorry guys, I'm not a tech guru. Let's see. There he is. Hey Joey, how are you?
Hello. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Well, welcome to Conversations with Allieetoile, and thank you so much for offering to be part of this. I am absolutely over the moon to have you.
Oh, thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Absolutely. Well, before we get started, I just want to quickly ask for those who are watching us right now and for those who are joining us, if you can give us a quick thumbs up or something that you can, to let us know that you can hear us, you can see us, life is good. Fingers crossed. I'm going to assume that they can hear us. Yes, thank you. Okay, awesome, awesome, awesome. So, before we begin, obviously I just mentioned a little bit that you are a guest today, but I wanted to hand the metaphorical mic to you a little bit to, for those who are watching and maybe aren't familiar with you, which I find very, very hard to believe because I think you're just wonderful. But I wanted to give you the opportunity to talk about who you are, where you're dancing, and yeah, just a little bit of a background on yourself.
Sure. So I'm Joseph Massarelli. I'm originally from Chicago, Illinois, and I trained at the Chicago Academy for the Arts, which is a private performing arts high school in the city. And when I graduated there, I was offered a scholarship to train at the Dutch National Ballet Academy summer course, and I took it, and I went to to join the school. And I was a student at the school for a year, and then I joined the junior company of Dutch National Ballet. And then since then, I've moved up through the ranks, and now I'm currently a Grand Sujet, or a demi-soloist with the company.
Amazing.
Some pretty talented people in the company, so I'm feeling very lucky.
Well, I am so lucky to have you, and I'm sure those who are watching and joining us right now and are going to be so lucky to be able to hear your thoughts on everything going on right now. So first of all, I wanted to just say, I hope that you and your loved ones are still healthy and doing well and safe at this time. This is so crazy. I know that there is a lot that's going on. I don't want to say a whole lot of nothing, although there are days when it feels like it, but sending love to you guys, all of you who are watching around the world right now especially. So Joey, you have an obviously amazing, amazing portfolio as a pre-professional student, as a professional. And so I wanted to just talk about a little bit, whatever you're able to talk about, of course, what is the current situation with Dutch National Ballet? What is it like right now just in Europe?
Right.
Because you are in Amsterdam. Can you talk just a little bit about what's changed and what the current environment is?
Actually got news on March 13th. We had just done our morning ballet class, and the director, Ted Branson, had organized a meeting for us to all come together in the studio after class, and we were informed that things were kind of getting worse, and it wasn't necessarily maybe the best idea to continue staying in close contact, and we were informed that public gatherings of more than 100 people that morning we did our ballet class, and Ted had informed us of the current situation, and they then told us to go home, and we were going to try and reconvene on Tuesday. And that obviously was not the case. We've been in quarantine now, self-isolation, I guess you could say, for just about 2.5 weeks. It was pretty unexpected, but at the same time, we were kind of preparing for the worst. So I think since then, we've been very fortunate that our company has been so awesome in offering online classes through Zoom. So we have currently every day we have a live stream or a private class for just the dancers of Dutch National Ballet offered to us, and also we have Pilates being offered to us through Zoom. We have a ballet fitness class offered to us, and then on top of that, we're able to also look to other companies as well to see what they're offering. And so we're all trying to stick together. Actually, right before this, we had a little Zoom meeting with just the dancers, just to catch up, to make sure everybody's doing all right, and still feel like we're all together, even though we're not physically together. So I think it's been very different. I mean, none of us can really say that we've gone through this before, so it's pretty important that
absolutely. I mean, this is
it's crazy.
I feel for you. I feel for so many of the companies who are in similar situations, and I want to applaud, especially being able to hear that from yourself, all of the companies who are making these resources available to their dancers at this time. I mean, we at Birmingham Royal Ballet, we just had, I don't know if anyone's heard of the Zoom platform. I think that's kind of what most people are doing for those big, video conferences, but we just had one collectively as the company yesterday, and it's challenging because, obviously some of us are not in England, not in Europe, and, you've got different time zones, you've got different, there's just so many logistical factors that make it difficult to stay together when we're not all in the same place. But they have done such an amazing job of really allowing us all to still feel like a company together in this, which is great. And to hear that other companies are doing that as well, it warms my heart, because I think that that's something that is so important right now, is being able to not necessarily rely and depend, but being able to know that you have people, you have an organization, a team who are watching you go through this, who are going through it with you and moving through it together. So that's amazing, and I'm so glad that you are able to make use of those resources. Yeah. And so that kind of leads me into the first question. Someone wanted to know, obviously, this is I think this is potentially maybe a student or someone pre-professionally writing this in, and they were asking, a lot of companies are offering these tools to professional dancers. What can you do if you don't have access to this? What if you're someone who maybe is unsure of what's the best platform or what's the best resource for you to be able to do? Because when you're young or younger and you're at home and you want to stay safe, obviously you don't want to be doing a class on definitely not ideal, surfaces, area space. How do you do so that it's safe, and how do you find something that's, good for you to benefit from?
Actually, right now, I have been doing a lot of things by myself. I've been giving myself class. I've been making up my own combinations. I currently use a radiator as my bar, and the company has been very generous, and they're actually offering the dancers bars and flooring, like dance floor, for us.
Oh, wow.
So we're quite lucky to do that. But actually, a lot of dancers in America are using what's called shower pan liner as a dance floor, and you can order that online. So I think that's definitely an alternative if you don't have ideal flooring. I cannot jump in my apartment. The floors and walls are so thin that I definitely do not want to shake the whole building. So I'm currently not jumping. I just do a bar, maybe a little bit of center, but the best thing for me is I actually do a lot of floor bar. And floor bar is something that you can do on the floor, and there's a ton of videos online that offer full classes, and there's a lot of live streaming going on with floor bar classes as well. And I feel like that's the best alternative to a full ballet class, because you're still using all the same muscles that you would, and it's actually a great way to figure out how to better utilize your body and stay fit and stay healthy. But it's also a good time to explore what works for you and what does not. So for me right now, I'm really enjoying figuring out how to tailor things to what works for me. And I think for young professionals,
Absolutely, yeah.
what suits you. And I think it's also important to stay safe and not do things that you're not sure of how to execute and things like that. And it's basically, I think, a good time to figure out where you're at as a dancer and what you want to improve on and what you feel you may not be as strong at. And it's your time to figure out how you want to better yourself, because at the end of the day, you have a ton of time on your hands, and what do you do with that time? So I think it's important that you continue to try and improve as best as you can, but you can continue to find other outlets that provide you with that inspiration and that.
Definitely, definitely. And I think that this is also an amazing resource. Like everything that you had just mentioned, I think is fabulous. And if you are someone who is still in their training, or someone who is not yet crossed over from that pre-professional to professional type thing, take a look and see what other companies are doing. Go on Instagram, go on Facebook, use our social connectivity, because that is the one thing that we all have access to right now, is being able to look at a screen and learn. So, you know, definitely if you're someone who is trying to figure out what school or what company you might be interested in down the road or in the very near future, take a look and see what they're doing, because definitely you want to be able to be educated. You know, this is a career where there's a lot of unknowns and there's a lot of, you know, you have to kind of navigate the waters and figure out what works best for you, and use this time wisely to be able to check it out and see, because we will be out of this eventually. It's going to be challenging when we do. There's going to be a lot of obstacles, you know, getting back in shape, you know, getting back into performance condition, and then of course just being able to perform, you know, with an audience, no less. But there will be an end on the other side to this, and hopefully through this time frame you can use all the resources Joey just mentioned to be able to help you kind of figure out what's the best path for you, to figure out, you know, this is where I'd like to be when we're done with this, you know?
Right. For sure. And I think it's important as a young student or as a young dancer, even as a professional, to constantly question what it means to you to be a dancer, but also what is important to you at that moment in time, because I think we quickly forget that we are humans first.
Absolutely.
And I think it's important to ask yourself what you're interested in. I think it's important to obviously, you know, continue to do your ballet training as best as you can and stay in the loop with what's going on, but this is the time to figure out what else you're interested in aside from ballet. And I used to think, oh my gosh, if I have other interests other than ballet, that makes me a lesser dancer, or less devoted to what my passion is. But that's not the case at all. It actually makes you a much better dancer, a much more educated artist, because you're informing yourself with other platforms and other information to help you fuel your career as well as a dancer and also as a human. So I think this is a great time to explore those other options and see what you might be interested in, because you have so much time. Why not explore what else is out there and see how it can help you stay inspired and informed about the world that we're living in and the career path that you're choosing.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think that's an amazing, a wonderful way to look at this time, because, you know, and this is something that I've asked pretty much every guest I've had on here so far. You know, we've all talked about how ballet is unfortunately a career that does have a bit of an expiration date on it. You know, it's not one that we're going to be able to do until we're in our 50s, 60s, at least not on the stage type of thing. And so, you know, of course, how does it make us feel right now that our careers are kind of put on hold? You know, obviously this isn't something that we had control over, that's a given, but it's, you know, it's different when you're working through an injury, or when you're, I don't know, the only other comparison I can think of is, you know, why do people take time off? Usually it's if they're having a baby, if they're injured, or if they're potentially pursuing another craft aside, you know, alongside of their career. Exactly. This is something that's completely, you know, we didn't get to choose to take this time.
No, exactly. It wasn't given to us. So I think, or we didn't choose, it was given to us. So I think it's important that we use this time. I mean, right now I'm taking a free online course on leadership, in which I thought I'd never have time to do. My roommate, she's also a dancer with the company. She's taking courses on graphic design. She's exploring other routes of dance, doing Gaga classes, doing, you know, all these things that we wouldn't necessarily have the time to do. And we're taking this time to value what we don't normally get to do in our daily practice. You know, we're so focused as dancers, whether it be in any style. And I think it's important that we maintain that, but it's also important to explore what else is possible. You know, you don't want to limit yourself, and this is a perfect time to go beyond what you thought was possible, or go search for other interests and things like that. So you should really value this time as a time for like a self-exploration, I guess.
Definitely, definitely. And you know, Joey, it's interesting because everything that you've been saying so far, you know, it is so refreshing. It's so positive to know that while you are somebody who is so gifted and so well developed as an artist in your career right now, but to hear you be able to talk about, yeah, you know, ballet is a big part of me, but it's not all of me. And I think that that's something really, really important to be able to normalize that kind of a conversation within the ballet world, because oftentimes I feel that there's a little bit of a stereotype or a stigma that if you're not 100%, you know, this blinders on ballet robot, then you're not going to, you know, you're not going to get there.
You're not going to think
But I think it's important to acknowledge that we are people. We do have interests and other things that excite us and motivate us and that we want to pursue. And especially, you know, I think having those outside influences and those outside interests only contribute to what we're able to put out there on stage and make us a more rounded person, a more rounded artist.
Exactly. I totally agree. It's just a matter of sitting down and asking yourself those questions, because sometimes it's a bit scary. You have to be extremely honest with yourself, and this is, the younger you can figure that out, the better, I think. I think if you can sit down and ask yourself these questions and figure out, okay, what might else be an interest to me, or what is going to spark my inspiration to do this. I think it's difficult, but once you figure out how to do that, it becomes very easy, and you can continually do that in your daily practice, and you can carry that into your ballet training, into your normal everyday life. So I think it's important, the earlier you can figure out how to do that and build up the courage to ask yourself those honest questions, the better.
Of course. I think that's amazing. And, you know, I wanted to quickly, I just realized this because someone was writing this in on my laptop. I've just realized that you are the first male dancer or male artist that I have on my channel in this series so far. So this is a really interesting question. Does this, you know, the situation with coronavirus, does it impact male dancers versus female dancers? Like, is there a different mindset, or how does it affect us differently physically? I mean, I think that's a very interesting question. I didn't ever really think about that, to be honest. So definitely getting your perspective, you know, what physical changes or what physical challenges are you facing right now, and then mentally as well, what are your thoughts? What are some of your concerns? Because I think that as much as it's wonderful to be able to talk about the inspirational and positive stuff, I think it makes it more human to be able to discuss, like, yeah, you know, I cried last night in the shower, or this was really upsetting me, or, you know, it's crazy, and it's really, there's a lot there. This is a lot. This is a big pill to swallow, and a lot of us are kind of just sitting here like, what's happening, you know?
Exactly. I think being a male dancer, we're obviously expected to partner a lot and be lifting ballerinas above our heads and doing some crazy things, you know. So our upper body strength and lower body strength is pretty crucial to our daily practice. I'm trying to find alternatives to going to the gym, because usually I do that every morning before class. I go to the gym, you know, do some lifting, do some other things to try and keep myself in shape and feeling strong. So currently I follow something called ClassPass. It's an online like gym service, and right now they're actually offering it for free because of the current situation. So that, I think that's a great thing to promote, and it's you can choose, you know, what you want to focus on that day. They have cardio classes, they have ab focus classes, they have yoga, they have upper body. And my first day, I did an upper body class, and I didn't have dumbbells, so I used champagne bottles. It's just kind of, you know, an alternative. It was all I had, but it made, you know, do for the time being. But it's, I think, important for us to obviously keep our upper body strength going and whatnot. But for the females, I'm sure it's also very difficult to be doing point work on whatever flooring you have and whatever kind of living situation you're in.
Yeah.
Obviously, some people have more space than others, so I think that's also part of it. But I think we're kind of all in the same boat together, whether it's a male or female dancer. It's not necessarily, I think it's not a question of gender. It's more of a question of how can you keep yourself going.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely.
Even out, because of circumstances, it's really difficult. But it's, you know, I'm obviously very trying to stay positive and through it all. But I'm obviously not with my family right now, and I would love to be with my family. But I don't want to risk, you know, traveling and, you know, spreading whatever I can catch. You know, there's that. And so my sister's actually been putting together all of our family videos from God knows when. So she's been sending those to us, and it's a way that we are able to feel connected. So it's been helping with that. And I have a wonderful roommate, Clara Superfine, who we're basically family. We keep each other in check. We're always there for each other. So that's a great way that we're able to, you know, stay positive through it all. Even if we're scared, we're able to communicate that to each other. We have a safe space at home. We try not to watch too much of the news. You know, we try to gather as much information about the current situation as possible, but not to the point where we're so scared to the point where we're scared to walk out our front door.
Yeah.
It's honestly, it's a situation that we couldn't have necessarily prepared to process, you know? But I think the most important thing through it all is to stay positive and find that way of staying positive. That's the difficulty, and it's constantly changing. But we're there, you know, find someone that's able to boost you up. I'm continually FaceTime with my family. I'm always trying to find some way to communicate with others, and also taking time to myself, you know, trying to meditate, trying to take time to, you know, calm my anxieties down, because sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, what if I never get to work again? And it reminds you to stay grateful for what you have, and reminds you to continually care about those around you, because this isn't just a matter of whether or not I'm going to be Joey Massarelli, the ballet dancer, after this. It's a question of whether or not our world can recover from this. So it's not necessarily my individual concern. It's more about the collective, I think. And I think if we can continually support each other and remind each other how important it is to stay safe and healthy, I think that's going to help us get through this difficult time.
Definitely. I think I couldn't agree more with your mindset through all of this. I mean, this is, again, it goes without saying, this is just something that nobody could have ever seen coming. And honestly, it's something that we don't know what it's going to look like tomorrow. So we have to take it day by day and hold on to those resources and hold on to those factors that keep us positive, keep us grounded, and give us that strength and motivation to keep going through this. I mean, life doesn't stop, it keeps going. I mean, obviously our careers are on hold for not just dancers, around the world.
For everyone.
And it's something that is very unsettling. And so it's interesting because someone just wrote in a question, and many people are writing in questions at the moment on the screen, so I will get to those. But this one was very interesting. Someone wrote in, I don't know. I am not a ballet dancer, but I heard that ballet dancers either make heaps of money or they don't make much at all. What are the financial implications? Or what can we talk about? You know, what do ballet dancers do? What can we expect going through this? And, you know, because it's a big concern. I mean, I completely see that. There's a lot of companies right now. It's different United States to Europe and abroad, but there are some companies who are in a position where they've had to lay off dancers for an indefinite period of time. There are some dancers who are continuing to be still getting their monthly salary. So there's just a lot of, you know, what's the reality? You know, how do we function as adults, as people, if we're not able to continue, you know, the day job?
Right. Well, I'm very lucky, and as are all the dancers at Dutch National Ballet currently, we're continuing to get paid our normal salaries, which is way more than we could have asked for. I know that in other situations, like you stated, it's not the case. And so basically right now, what my roommate and another friend of ours are trying to do is we're trying to support our local businesses with that salary that we have. We are ordering our groceries from small local groceries, and they're being delivered to our house, which is great. But we're trying to find any way possible to help anyone that's in a financial rut continue their business or whatever, because right now it's so uncertain about how long this can go on and uncertain about which businesses can survive. But as ballet dancers, we're not necessarily the highest paid profession. And so we have to make do with what we have. So obviously not everyone can make that contribution, but we know that we can spare however many euro we can at the moment to help support each other and help support our local businesses. And I think it's extremely unfortunate that people have been laid off from their positions in various companies, or their salaries have been put on hold, or they're getting a reduced amount of salary. So that's, again, another reminder for us in Europe that are continuing to get their normal salaries to be grateful and to hopefully help any way that we can, because there are people that are struggling financially. And it's, again, a reminder that you should be grateful for what you have and continue to spread that positivity and, again, help any way that you can.
Definitely.
It's, again, a profession that we don't have a lot of funding in comparison to some others, but it's very important to hopefully help and keep the arts survive through all of this. I think it's crucial. So hopefully we can find a way to continue to do that.
I agree. And while it's stressful, thankfully Birmingham Royal Ballet, we're in a very similar situation where they are continuing to ensure that we have that income through this period. But for those dancers who don't, I mean, I can't even, my heart goes out to you. I can't even imagine how that feels, what implications that will do for so many people. But I want to urge you all to look at it from the standpoint of, this is a time for you to invest in yourself in a different capacity. So I understand there will be a struggle. There's going to be a struggle for the whole world. The socioeconomic implications from this are already massive. And so this is something where whatever resources you have, whatever time you have, which I know we all have a lot of that right now, is, look at online free courses, look at, look at other programs, or even if it's something as simple as downloading a documentary to watch or an ebook or something. Invest in yourself, in your knowledge, in your health, in your education, and you can continue to do that even from the ballet standpoint. Watch videos, study, read up on things. There's so many case studies and there are so many interesting findings that people have done in the scientific world, in the medical world, and studying how our bodies work, how we move. And I think it's definitely a way to keep your brain engaged and to feel, I think dancers are the kind of personality type where we feel good when we accomplish something, or we feel good when we've improved something. So being able to give yourself different, or maybe the not so common way to improve or way to grow, giving yourself something to be able to digest and say like, I learned something, or I did this, I think that's going to be a self-motivating factor all in itself.
For sure. Most definitely. I think, the way that I'm staying motivated is looking for other outlets. Like you said, I was never a reader. Like, I never enjoyed reading books. I could never sit still. And now I'm taking the time to read. I'm, again, doing the course through this amazing site called EDX. They offer free courses. You can audit them. You won't necessarily get credit for it, but it's something, better than nothing. But you can pay, obviously, and get credit for those classes. But there's just so many things that you can do. We're doing puzzles. We're doing things that, I haven't done since I was a child. So it was so nice to, get to try out these things. We're playing different games. It's a time to, again, self-explore and find what motivates you. And again, in relation to your craft and ballet, this is your time to figure out what you want to improve on. Don't let yourself like forget to set goals. You can still accomplish and improve things. I'm already, you know, finding that I'm doing things so differently. I don't have a mirror. We don't have a mirror to look at ourselves, you know. A lot of us don't. It's a time that you really have to be able to feel your body, feeling what it's doing. So it's a time that you really can, again, explore what it's like to be in a completely different situation and find out how you can make the best of it.
Absolutely, yeah. I think that's an amazing, again, I totally agree with your mindset through all of this. I think that it's good just to open our eyes, open our ears, and be willing to accept what is right now and just embrace it and use these factors to just progress you forward in life. Because at some point, there's going to be another hiccup. There's going to be another, you know, in our career, it's a roller coaster. We have unbelievable highs and devastating lows. And it can be in the physical aspects. It can be in the mental, emotional aspects. And, you know, it's not those things that necessarily define us, but it definitely, it brings, you know, adversity is something that brings out your character.
Right.
And this is definitely something that is bringing that out in a lot of us right now. It's such a trying time, and it's going to be who knows how long. So
exactly,
continuing with that mindset that you've been offering us this whole time is absolutely fabulous. And so I want to quickly jump into a couple questions that someone has wrote in. I think you have we have a major Joey fan on here. Someone has wrote in several things, and basically it's all just along the lines of, what does Joey want to do when he retires? Do you have any dream roles, you know, things that inspire you, or are you interested in different dance styles and companies? So basically, yeah, I mean, what do you see for yourself career-wise, you know, in the next 3 to 5 years, and potentially, you know, where do you see yourself after your time on the stage?
Right. So in 3 to 5 years, it's kind of hard to say, but I've been lucky to be offered a lifetime contract with the Dutch National Ballet, because in Europe you can, after being with a company for 4 years, you can be offered that. And so I'm now on contract with Dutch National Ballet until I'm 38. So that's obviously something that's great to have as a job security or cushion. But, you know, it's constantly changing. In 3 to 5 years, I could see myself continuing to live in Amsterdam. I could see myself continuing with the Dutch National Ballet, but there's also this part of me that would love to explore other companies. I've always thought San Francisco Ballet was a really awesome company to go and check out, as well as Pacific Northwest Ballet. I don't know if I'd want to, you know, go back to the States or stay in Europe. So it's all basically a big question mark, essentially. I have a couple of ideas, like I just shared, but it's mainly my 3 to 5 year goal, I guess, to say, is to continue to progress and to continue to push myself beyond what I thought was possible, work with as many choreographers and other dancers that I can. I think it's really important to constantly broaden your horizons in regards to choreographers and partners and whatnot, because I think you learn so much about yourself as a dancer and a person when you get to work with so many different people. And with that being said, I think when I retire, I would love to hopefully stay connected to the ballet world. I've always dreamt of being some sort of director or ballet master or something like that. I also thought physiotherapy would be a possibility. So it's, you know, it's still all up in the air, but I'm trying to tailor my studies to things that interest me like that. And that's why I thought this leadership course was going to be a great idea to feel for how that would be. And I took a human biology course a couple of years ago to see if I would, you know, continue staying interested in that in regards to physiotherapy. So it's a bunch of different things going on. I can't really say I have one idea of what I want to do when I retire, but it's definitely constantly changing, and I'm, you know, trying to figure out what I'm interested in, basically. So it's hard to say. Amazing,
amazing. And so another question for you, someone wrote in, and hopefully, I mean, I'm definitely curious to hear your perspective. Actually, both of us are Team USA. But what was it like making the move from not just necessarily an American school or an American company to being in Europe, but what's it like lifestyle wise? What was, was it shocking? Was it difficult? Was it hard being so difficult, or not difficult? Was it hard being so far away from family?
Right.
What can you talk about with, because there's a lot of people who, I think at some point in their career, whether they're in Europe or Asia or USA, like I think at some point as a dancer, you want to have the opportunity to, at the very least, travel and experience these other countries, these other cultures. Right. What have you personally learned or experienced through your journey?
So in my last year of school, the summer before or after I graduated, I was offered a position at Houston Ballet School and then the Dutch National Ballet. So I was extremely torn between whether I stay in America, whether I go to Europe, and I ultimately chose the school in Amsterdam. And the day I was leaving, I refused to leave the house. My parents were like, we need to go to the airport. You're going to miss your flight. I was in tears. I was like, I'm not leaving. I'm not going. I had never moved away before. I had done summer programs before abroad, but I was like, this is the real deal. I'm going to be over there by myself. I don't know if I'm going to like it. I don't know what the people are like. I don't know what the city's like. I was there for 2 weeks, but it was completely different. I'm not going to be with the same people that I was with. So I told my mom walked me through security, and she was like, please get on the plane. You're going to regret it if you don't. And I said, no, I'm just going to sit at the gate. I'm not going to get on the plane. I got on the plane. I arrived here, and I was a bit shocked just because it's totally different. I had never lived by myself before. I'm very lucky to live in a country where English is widely spoken and people are very open to speaking it. Because my Dutch is not that great. I'm getting better at it. I'm better at understanding than speaking it. But everyone's so kind here to immediately switch to English, which is nice, but at the same time, it kind of prevents me from ever having to practice my Dutch. But it's ultimately become home here. I mean, I feel like I've adjusted well to the lifestyle. It's very laid-back culture. Everyone kind of minds their own business. They definitely are very eco-friendly, which I'm so thankful for. I ride my bike everywhere, which in America and Chicago, people bike in the city, but I would never bike from the suburbs to the city. So I bike to work every day. I love that. I think it's great that we have that option to do that. And there's so many great restaurants here. There's so many other artistic things going on and concerts and whatnot. So it's a great city to live in, actually. There's so many things that the city offers that I feel like in America it's not necessarily as easy because the city is a bit smaller. It's, some people are like, oh my gosh, I have to bike 20 minutes to get to work. And we think that's long. And in America, it's like 20 minutes, that's nothing. I think it's definitely totally different. But when I go back home, I sometimes joke, I'm like, I feel like I'm a tourist here now. But living here for almost 6 years, I definitely have adjusted, and I really love living here. I couldn't ask for a better city and a better company, really, to work for. So, yeah, I'd say I really love it here, and I again, feel very lucky.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And it's interesting because I went through a very similar mindset, when I made the transition from Houston Ballet to Birmingham Royal Ballet. I mean, there's a big what if, like, oh, what if I don't like it as much as I like the other place? Or what if this is going to be different and this is going to be different? And then, of course, there comes the aspect of, traveling and seeing family, like being so far away. Before it was a 2-hour flight from Florida to Houston, and now it takes round trip 2 days for my family to get to me. Yeah. So definitely, like, it's a major component, and that kind of ties into the next question. Someone wrote in and asked, I think this individual's looking for a job potentially or pre-professional, right on that edge of becoming professional, and they're saying, how do you find what company is right for you? What are the factors that you consider? Personally, I think if it's your first job, your priority should be mostly focused on the rep. I think it should be focused on the administrators, like the staff that you want to work with. Who's your director? Who are your ballet masters? what kind of choreographers are going to be coming into that company. If you're interested in being in a more touring company, or a company that's maybe more regionally based, so they do just a lot of performing in their home venues. But it's interesting because my perspective has changed as I've gotten older and as I've been dancing longer, because now I factor in, of course, the professional aspect and what I want for my career, but I also factor in where would I like to, I don't want to say putting down roots because that sounds like super serious, permanent, like adult stuff, but also, where would I want to potentially stay for the foreseeable future? Where do I see myself having a good life, and being able to be socially involved in the city that I'm in? So that's personally my perspective on it. I don't know if Joey, if you can contribute or if you can add.
Yeah,
what have you thought about that?
When I was auditioning, I'm actually the shortest guy in the company here. I'm 175 centimeters, like 5'9". I'm 5'9", and most companies in Europe want men to be 180 centimeters or 6 feet tall. So I was kind of limited in that respect. I still sent my stuff everywhere because I think as a young dancer, you can definitely have your goals and you can have those companies that you have your eye on. But I think it's really important to not be super picky. Obviously, you don't want to just settle for anything, even if you're going to be totally unhappy there. But I was always told, when you go and audition, if you're taking company class, they're auditioning you as much as you're auditioning them. You want to see what their environment is like. You want to see, if you can, to watch rehearsals, see what that kind of environment is like. Because class can be one thing, but how the ballet masters or the dancers conduct themselves in rehearsal, I think is very important to take into consideration. Obviously, the city you live in, I never really thought about that, I guess, considering the city as much as I did what the company had to offer. And that's also totally fair. Some people can live anywhere. I'm learning that I probably cannot. I need to be in a place that offers, different outings and things like that. A very lively city, because that's kind of where I'm from. Chicago has a lot going on all the time. And moving here, it was a great thing to have, that I didn't have to go from having so many things at my disposal to nothing. But I think it's important as a young dancer, when you're looking at a potential school or a potential company, that you really look at, obviously, the rep and what it has to offer, but whether or not you're going to be happy there. Because at the end of the day, it's one thing to have a job, but it's another thing to be happy with the job that you have. And so I think it's important that you consider that. And, if you do have the opportunity to speak with the director, be daring, be courageous, and ask those questions. What do you see me going far with this company? What do you see me dancing? What is your next season going to look like, if they can give you that information? Because, one season could be one way, and the next season maybe they're not bringing in any new choreographers, or maybe they're only going on tour. And those kind of things I wasn't aware of. I understand that you're in a much more tour-based company, whereas in Amsterdam we do majority of our performances in Amsterdam. We do 2 regional tours a season, and then maybe an international tour every other season. So it's definitely more home-based, and I've grown to really like that, because I definitely feel the repercussions when I'm on a bus for too long. So I don't know if a touring company would necessarily be the best fit for me, but that's why you have to try it out when you're young, and you have to try out all these different scenarios. I think it's important, like I said, not to be picky, but also not to be desperate.
Definitely,
it's important. Obviously, if you only get that one offer and you're not necessarily happy with it, go get the experience, because the most important thing at the end of the day is getting the experience and figuring out what you like and what you don't like, and what you want and what you don't want. So it's a matter of finding, again, asking yourself those questions, being daring, being courageous, and continuing to set goals, but also stay level-headed and make sure that you are making a reality that you see yourself actually being happy in. Because sometimes, I know myself, I can get carried away and be like, oh yeah, I'd be totally fine if I did that with those circumstances. But at the end of the day, it's really about whether or not you're going to be happy.
I love that. I think that's amazing. I had someone just come and sabotage my episode. Hello, baby. This is Stanley. Okay.
So cute.
Or not. That's okay. So I wanted to thank you, Joey. I think that was such an amazing insight to that. I mean, there are so many factors to incorporate and to be aware of in this career. And I think that that summarized all of it just beautifully. And so I want to conclude with one more question. And of course, I want to open this to discussion as well. You know, what is something, you know, obviously when we come out of this, the world is going to be different. Jobs are going to be different. People are going to be viewing things differently. What is something that you would like to see change in the ballet world? You know, whether it's something that's a stereotype or a stigma or a cultural or environment type thing, you know, what's something that you think could be changed, be altered for the better?
You know, that's a hard question because there's so many things I'd love to see change. I think it's important that we recognize that, again, as ballet dancers, we're humans first. And I think it's important that the ballet world recognizes that. And, you know, obviously every company is stressed with the financial components that they're going through right now, you know, managing a business at the end of the day. And I think it's important that we as dancers and directors and ballet masters recognize that we're serving a greater good. You know, again, it's not about the individual, it's about the collective. And a situation right now, I think it's important, yes, to have arts at our disposal because it's so important. I think it keeps people inspired and positive and motivated, and it's incredible to see how many live stream performances and, you know, people doing bar in their kitchen. It's incredible that we've made do with the circumstances, but it's also important to recognize as dancers that we have the opportunity, that we have such a big social media platform currently. And I think it's important to get across that it's important to support those around you. Even if that's writing a letter to an elderly person, or if that's supporting your local businesses, or going out and helping those people that can't go get their groceries or can't see their family. You know, I think it's important that we continue to stay human and remember that we're serving a greater purpose. We're a community, we're a dance community, but we're also, it's a whole world that's going through this. Not just a dance community, not just one country, it's everyone. And I think that's important to remember, and I hope that that can stay with us, that we can continue to support each other through it all. Because it's really crucial, I think, to have a support system like this, and seeing all these companies being like, oh my gosh, we have a live stream class for you that you can do, and any dancers can join. I think that's wonderful. And I hope that that can continue, and we can continue to have our doors open to everyone, and hopefully, you know, keep the spirit of community and camaraderie around each other, because this is such a time where people are alone. They're socially isolated, they're physically isolated, but it's hopefully not going to stay that way afterwards, and hopefully that we can all remain together, and not just because we're going through something like this that we think to help our neighbor or think to help a community theater or things like that. That should be something that we can hopefully keep with us and continue to support the arts and continue to support our community. So I think it's important to remain humble, but also hopefully the dance world and ballet world and arts world will continue to spread this sense of community and welcomeness. And I think it's just, again, important to support each other through it all, regardless of the circumstances.
No, I think, Joey, I think that you summarized that beautifully. I mean, I agree. I think that there are so many things that could easily be addressed, that could easily be changed and identified within our culture. But I mean, you've summarized it beautifully. I think that just being conscientious, being respectful, being aware of the circumstances and being aware of what we all want independently in our lives and in our career, I think that's a beautiful and very healthy and refreshing mindset to have. And so with that being said, I want to thank you so much for being part of Conversations with allieetoile. I hope that everyone who is watching us today is able to leave with a smile on their face. I know that I am. And I mean, absolutely, for those who are watching, joining us, of course, you know, if you weren't able to see the whole thing, this will be made available on my YouTube channel coming in the next couple of days, and I will share with you all that link when it comes available. And of course, Joey, I want to thank you so much, not only for your time, but your insight, your wisdom, and your compassion. You know, you definitely are a star in the making, and you know, I am so excited to continue to see you blossom in your career, and it's just an absolute pleasure to be able to connect, even though it may not be face to face, but hopefully at some point we'll be able to get there again. So with that being said, again, thank you so much for being part of this, and yeah, tune in to the next episode of Conversations with Allieetoile that will be coming tomorrow at 11. What time is it? Yes, 11 Eastern time. And details on the website. And again, big round of applause for Joey. I thank you so much for being part of this. You were absolutely fantastic.
I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me. I had a lot of fun, and it's another outlet to help, put this pent up energy out and hopefully help give some insight to some people. And I'm so happy that you invited me to be a part of this. So thank you.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Well, I thank you guys for everyone who tuned into this episode, and we will see you next time. Bye, Joey. Stay safe and healthy.
Bye, Allie. You too.